Hello, everyone. Um, I might just go ahead and get started because it's 7:02, so we've given people a couple minutes to join.
I think so.
And what I am going to ask is we will have the chat feature disabled. However, if you guys have any comments or questions, you'll throw them in the Q&A feature. Could I please have someone just to test out the Q&A feature, just throw a hello in there, a thumbs up, so I know that you can see us and hear us. And then once I have that confirmation, there we go. Thank you
Woo!
guys.
In chorus. Thanks, everyone.
I will now dismiss all of these. Um, oh, hi, Isabel. That's so funny. Um, I worked with Isabel back in my lifeguarding days at the YMCA. So that's hilarious. Okay, I am gonna get us started. So my name is Rayna Erasmus. I am the program manager here at RRP, and I am joined tonight with Kristen Kovatch Bentley, who is our communications manager.
Oh,
And
oh,
not with us tonight is Molly Hutchison, who is our program assistant and my co-show secretary. So most likely throughout the year, anything regarding the makeover and your entries, you'll be communicating with myself or Molly. Um, and tonight we are going to go over everything to get you started on your journey to the Thoroughbred Makeover. So first of all, congratulations. You have been accepted to the 2025 Thoroughbred Makeover. You are among a great class of riders and trainers, and we're super excited to have you all here. And this is just the start of your journey with your horse. The makeover, we always say, is just a stop on the journey. It's not the destination. So that's something to just keep in mind throughout the year. It's an amazing experience. It's known as the happiest horse show on earth, and for good reason. But we want to make sure you guys always have your eye on the prize, and the prize is a lovely, well-produced, well-rounded horse for many, many years to come. So tonight we are going to be going over mostly the acceptance letter that you guys all got today. It has a lot of good information in it that I would like to review with you all with some details. And Kristen is going to go over some amazing stuff that is in that, as well as some marketing information with you all, how to handle our uh, how to promote yourself, social media, all that fun stuff, fundraising, funding your journey to the makeover. I will let her get into all of that eventually. And I suggest you guys stick around for the entire thing. There's a lot of good information. We will have this recorded, so if you have to bounce at some point, don't worry. We will post a recording on our YouTube channel. So with that, please, as we go, put your questions in the Q&A, and we will likely circle back to them at the end. Kristen, if while I'm rambling you happen to catch something, feel free to just interrupt me and we can answer that on the fly. If not, we'll probably circle back to everything at the end. I will say it's really tempting right now to ask very granular questions that you probably don't need to be worrying about right now. Like, how can I stable with my friends? Stuff like that. We're probably not going to get into the nitty gritty of that right now. There's so much big picture stuff to make sure you guys are all on the right foot, and we will make sure that you have all that information when it is needed. We have a final entry process, all this stuff to make sure you guys are well prepared every step of the way. So today we're mostly going to we're going to focus on the introductory level stuff to just make sure you guys are prepared for the journey. So, one thing that you're going to hear me repeating throughout the night is that if you have any questions, one, check the rule book, and two, email secretary@vrp.org. Myself and Molly, are your first line of communication, not the trainer group, not your friends, not our social media inboxes. It's going to be secretary@vrp.org. We do work a normal just 9 to 5 schedule. So Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, excluding holidays. This is a full-time job for the majority of us that work at RRP. So we are likely not going to answer you on Christmas Day or at noon on Saturday. So please keep that in mind, but we are very, very efficient in responding to emails, normally within 1, maybe 2 business days. So If you have any questions, you just come straight to us and we will get back to you as soon as possible. Coming to us rather than a former makeover trainer or the group or anything like that, which Kristen will dive more into in a little bit, is really the way to ensure you get the most accurate information. Our rules change every year, and a trainer that has the best of intentions might give you information that would have applied in 2016, but doesn't apply in 2025. So that is my spiel on emailing us directly if you have any questions. And truly, we are here to help you with anything and everything. If you have concerns about your horse, what discipline you should do, anything like that, you can always come to us. But that's also where the trainer group comes in. If you're having any issues with the retraining process, those are the people that you're really going to want to lean on. But we are here to help you with anything and everything, anything we can do to help make your journey as successful as possible. And on another note that's not quite as fun is our participant code of conduct. All of you, in order to be accepted into the makeover, signed our waiver, which includes the participant code of conduct that you have read and agreed to it. This essentially serves to say that you will serve as good ambassadors, not only to the Thoroughbred Makeover and the Retired Racehorse Project, but to the Thoroughbred breed. So please ensure that you're always putting horse welfare at the forefront, that you're conducting yourselves professionally and appropriately online, all of that good stuff. If you know somebody, if you are aware that someone has violated the code of conduct or the rules in any way, we do have an official process. You will file a rule violation report form through the Contact Us form on our website, which is therrp.org. Please do that. We cannot address a situation if we are not aware of it. So please don't assume that we already know. Sorry, that's my cat's. He is currently in my lap. But please don't assume that we already know about, something that might be going on in the horse community. We probably don't. And we want to be able to make sure that everyone is adhering to our code of conduct and truly representing themselves in the breed well. So if you know of something, please keep us in the loop. But we really hope to not hear of anything this year. And let's see here. We've gone over our how to contact us and our hours. So I'm going to dive right into the email. The first part of the email is going over some critical dates that you all want to be aware of for the year. Acceptances were announced today. That's the first one. And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen for you all. And you will notice I'm committing slight identity theft right now, and I am logged in as Britt Vegas, but I don't think she'll mind. I have the rule book here pulled up with our key deadlines, and I'm just going to run you guys through this whole thing, but hopefully shortening everything a little bit. So trainer applications, if you're on this email today, I'm willing to assume that that process is done for you all. You guys have submitted your applications and you've been accepted. However, you might have some friends that are hemming and hawing whether or not they want to do the makeover. Don't forget that late applications are accepted until June 27th. So if you have friends that maybe end up stumbling upon a makeover eligible horse and are like, oh, shoot, I missed the deadline, or someone who's just not sure if they want to commit to it yet, feel free to pass on that information to them. We are happy to accept late applications up until June 27th. And similarly, with that June 27th deadline, there's a lot that goes into it. Some of you might have been accepted with a limited non-jumping restriction. That might be because you applied for a Western discipline and didn't supply any jumping videos, or it might be because the videos that you provided were below height, or for one reason or another, our selection committee didn't feel like they met the requirements to get that restriction lifted. If that's the case and you intend on jumping at the makeover, you will need to email me by June 27th at 5 p.m. All of our deadlines are 5 p.m. on a business day. That's something to keep in mind, Eastern time. So, and that's a pretty firm deadline. If it has to do with a form like the final entry, you'll want to make sure you get that submitted before 5 p.m. You will get locked out of a form after 5 p.m. So please take that seriously. Anyway, back to my point. If you've been accepted with a limited non-jumping restriction and you would like to get that lifted, you're going to email me with a new video of you jumping a full course of fences that are all 2-6 or higher by 5 p.m., June 27th of this year. So That's going to be a new video, not one that you used in the application process. It's going to be a full course of fences, so that's a minimum of 8 fences. All of them must be 2.6 or higher. If you would like to participate in field hunters or eventing, you will not only supply that basic jumping video, but additional cross-country footage. So you'll have a stadium video in an arena, stadium fences, all 2.6 or higher. And then you'll supply video, most likely of cross-country schooling. We don't expect video of a full course of you at a horse trial. We don't expect video of you actually fox hunting. We know that that's difficult, but your video will be of you jumping, probably schooling a variety of cross-country fences that are all beginner novice, so 2.7 or higher. It can be short clips, doesn't have to be a course strung together, but make sure it shows a variety of different types of cross-country fences. And string that all together. You're going to upload that to YouTube or Vimeo. You're going to send me the link, send me the date that it was filmed, and the description for the video. I'm going to pass that along to the committee. They're going to review it and make their decision, and I will communicate back to you all what that decision is. So that's a little bit about trainer applications. Our horse registration form. The horse registration form has been open since you all were able to start submitting your applications. So if you haven't done so already and you already have your horse, you're going to want to go ahead and register them now. The way that you do that is, if I was Britt here, I would log into my portal. So if you remember, you guys go to my account here at the top right, then you'll click on the Thoroughbred Makeover tab here on the left side. Scroll down to the My Entries table, and you will use this little actions drop-down menu, hit register a thoroughbred, then hit the go button. And that will bring you to the registration form where you will supply all of your information about your horse. If you have that limited non-jumping restriction we talked about, it will not only be in your acceptance letter, but there will be a note here at the top of this table in red that says that this entry is currently restricted to non-jumping disciplines. If you are unsure if you have a restriction or not, check your email. If you didn't get a decision letter today, please make sure to email us. We need to make sure we have the right email on file for you. I didn't get any bounce backs, so I hope that's not the case. But that is how are going to be our main line of communication with you all this year. So make sure you got the email from me. If you didn't, email me and let's correct that. But if you have any questions about if you have a limited non-jumping restriction or not, you're going to check your acceptance email. You're going to check your portal. If you still are unsure, you're welcome to email me and I'm happy to confirm that for you. So the horse registration form, I just showed you all how to access that. The deadline to register your horse, you don't have to have them now. We know many of you don't. And we know many of you might go through a couple different horses before you ultimately decide which one you're going to be taking to the makeover. If you are a reseller and you tend to sell your horses before the makeover, that's pretty common. Either way, they do need to be registered with us by July 29th. That's again at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, July 29th. So you can swap horses as many times as you want until then. If you were accepted to bring one horse, you can only have one active registration at a time. So that means that the horse's status is either accepted or pending. But if you have a horse, decide that horse is not the one that you want to bring to the makeover, you can go into your portal, you can withdraw that horse, and you can register a new one. If you were accepted for one horse, you've decided you'd rather take 2 horses or 3 horses, you're going to email me and request an invoice for an additional horse registration fee. That way you can have 2 active horse registrations at the same time. And that will give you the ability to have 2 horses that are either accepted or pending approval. Once you pay that invoice, I will increase your horse count and you will be free to register your additional horses. You will need to request that invoice and pay it before that June 27th deadline that I'm going to keep repeating many times. That is the deadline to declare multiple horses. July 29th is the deadline to register those horses. If you do not register any horses with us by July 29th at 5 p.m., your application is going to be considered abandoned and your entry will be withdrawn. You will not be able to compete if your horse has not been registered with us by July 29th. So it's very important that you complete that step. If you have the horse now, please just go ahead and register them. Even if that horse might change, it's better to make sure that you have a horse registered with us and then have to change it down the line. It's really easy to do, to go in and change the horse's status so that you're able to register a new one. With that, we do have a wonderful staff member, Sally Roberts, who manually reviews every single horse registration. So your horse, you might hit that submit form and see that your horse's status shows as pending in the trainer portal for a couple days, maybe even a couple weeks. That's okay. Don't panic. Sally takes her time. She gathers tons of racing and breeding data and awesome information on these horses that she is inputting before she hits that accept button. Generally, what we tell people is no news is good news when it comes to horse registrations. So if you submitted your registration, you haven't heard anything, don't worry. Sally's just going to get there, eventually change it to accepted. You will not be notified when your horse is accepted. You will just see in the portal that their status has changed. We will only contact you regarding your horse's registration if there is some sort of issue, if we need any sort of clarification, anything like that. I think that generally covers horse registrations, but Kristen, I saw that you unmuted yourself, so I figured you might have something to chime in.
Yeah, a horse does need to be registered. It does not actually need to compete at the makeover to be considered a thoroughbred makeover graduate. This is mostly just like a fun bragging point for us, but it means that you can get that horse the TB makeover grad swag, and that horse is still considered to have participated in the makeover process. So if you never register a horse, that horse just can't be a thoroughbred makeover graduate, but this might be a thing that's really just sort of only important to us as horse owners, but go ahead and get that horse registered because then it puts that horse in our system. It just provides one more step of traceability for what happens to these horses after racing. So you are kind of participating in sort of a bigger picture, part of our mission with that. So get those horses registered, please, and thank you.
Absolutely. And not only does it help our mission, but now that we are doing clinics, which I will touch on more, we are planning to open clinics up this year to graduate horses. So if that is to continue in future years, if you register your horse and don't make it to the makeover this year, you could bring that horse in a alumni spot in a clinic next year to the makeover. So something to keep in mind. There's a lot of benefits to registering your horse, but also it helps us. Whether you get to the makeover or not, it helps us gather more information. At the end of the day, we're really trying to improve traceability on thoroughbreds, and the more information we have, the better. So please register your horses. If you don't complete that form, even if you do have your horse come October, we won't see you in October. So that's your final warning on that. We've already talked a little bit about the late application deadline. I'm not going to get into that. So we're going to skip right down to the earliest date for the EHV1 vaccination compliance, which is April 6th. So your horse must be vaccinated against EHV1 between the dates of April 6th and September 22nd. They cannot, their last vaccination date cannot be before April 6th or after September 22nd. That is super important. If we see that your horse's vaccination is outside of the appropriate date range, you will not be allowed to compete. Your horse will not pass the arrival exam, and you will be asked to leave the premises as soon as possible. Your horse will be put in a quarantine stall. This is very serious. We do not want to be the show that has an EHV1 outbreak, so we take this very seriously. We'll get more into our arrival exam process, but again, at every step of the way, we stress horse welfare. So please make sure that your documentation for your vaccinations, your Coggins, your health certificate, all of that is in order. One thing to note with the EHV1 as well, you can look in the rule book for the appropriate forms of documentation, but you cannot administer your own vaccines and show up with a Tractor Supply receipt or some sort of like proof of purchase and expect that to be appropriate proof of vaccination. Proof of vaccination must come from your vet. So either they need to administer the vaccine and provide you with an invoice or just the general statement from your vet, letter, whatever it is, that they were vaccinated against EHV1 at this date, or they can put it on your health certificate. Again, all of that is in the rule book in terms of what the appropriate documentations are. If you have a really good relationship with your vet to the point where you vaccinate your horse and they're willing to put it on the health certificate, the date of vaccination, that's between you and your vet. Quite honestly, don't want to know if you administered your own vaccine. If it can be on the horse's health certificate, signed and approved by your vet, that's good enough for me. Other than that, I don't want to know if you administered your vaccine. It really should be done by a vet, and proof needs to come from the vet. So that's the vaccines. getting to the final entry form here. The final entry form is going to be a big part of the process, right? You have the application process, the horse registration process, and then the final entry process. The final entry process is going to be where you actually enter the disciplines that you plan to compete in at the makeover. So we try to stress with you all during the application process that what you put as your intended discipline does not lock you into that discipline for October. You're actually going to select that discipline sometime between August 5th and August 29th. We know that some of you might have like put on your application that you intend to compete in eventing, but you might have a really young horse or a horse that's just mentally not ready to compete in eventing come October. So in August, you might decide to do dressage or hunters or freestyle or competitive trail or any of the other 10 disciplines that we offer. There are so many options. You'll want to make sure you're well informed on what the requirements are for every single one of those disciplines. We're not a standard horse show. We don't have classes. We just have disciplines. So you'll want to make sure that you are well prepared for whatever discipline it is, and you pick the discipline that is the best fit for your horse. Each horse can be entered in up to a max of 2 disciplines, and each rider can be associated with a max of 3 horses. So if you're someone bringing 3 horses and entering all of those horses in 2 disciplines, just be prepared for a busy week, but you can do that. 4 horses, no. 1 horse in 3 disciplines, no. But 1 horse in 2 disciplines, 1 rider with 3 horses, that's fine. So final entry form, like I said, you're going to select your discipline choices. If you're selecting a jumping discipline, the jump heights. This is where you're going to register for the clinics, which I'm going to get into in a minute. This is where you're going to select your horse's sale status. So it's important to note that you are by no means required to sell your horse. This is not like the Mustang makeover where you're like kind of required to go through some sort of sale process or adoption process at the end. I know many of you have selected a horse that is your forever horse, and others you plan on selling your horse after the makeover. Whatever you decide is perfectly okay, but you're going to let us know on your final entry form what your intentions are and if you wish to participate in our makeover marketplace. So, Kristen, I don't know if you intend on getting into the marketplace at all, but very brief summary is it's a exclusive sales catalog and listing service and promotion service for competing makeover horses. And it's a really great way to market your horses if you do intend to sell them or adopt them out after the makeover. The final entry form is also where you are going to report your horse's microchip number. Remember now that every single horse that participates in the makeover must have a Jockey Club registered scannable microchip. Some of you might have some older broodmares that aren't microchipped yet, and that's okay. But you're going to need to get them microchipped as soon as possible, well before August, and make sure that microchip then gets registered with the Jockey Club. And that you can then go in with a microchip scanner and find that microchip afterwards. For those of you that have horses now that you know the horse's microchip number, that's fantastic. I need you to take a scanner to your horse and find that microchip right now and look for it again in a couple months. Unfortunately, microchips they can be faulty, they can migrate, things can happen. So we need to know sooner rather than later if we're going to need to be registering a secondary microchip to your horse with the Jockey Club. It's not an easy process. We're happy to help you with that. But if you come to me on August 29th panicking because you just realized that you can't find your horse's microchip, you've scanned them head to toe, it's going to be very stressful, more stressful than it needs to be. So microchip scanners are like 19, 20 bucks. They don't have to be expensive. Get one, scan your horse. If they're Canadian, scan their lip. And truly, they can. Was that what you were going to say, Kristen? Yep. So the Canadian bred or racing horses sometimes have their microchips inserted in their lip, like where the tattoo would have gone. So that's one place you want to scan. But seriously, head to toe, we've found some microchips in some weird places. I can't stress it enough. It's just something that you don't want to have to be panicking over August 29th. So even if you think that your horse is microchipped because it's on the papers that were given to you when you purchased them, order yourself a scanner for peace of mind and scan them. If you want to be like me, scan them once a month. Make sure it doesn't move. And then when you get to the arrival exam, you can tell the vets in the arrival exam exactly where that microchip is. When you have that microchip number, go to the Jockey Club registrar microchip lookup tool, type that number in, make sure it actually pops up with your horse's name, because that can happen too, where it maybe was registered to the wrong horse. So confirm all of that through all the appropriate channels. Again, email me if you need any help with that, but just make sure your microchips are in order. Other thing for your final entry are your stabling needs. We're not going to get into the nitty gritty of that, but this is where you're going to tell us if you are just trailering in and will be, working off your trailer and then going home, or if you will truly be stabling on horse park grounds. It's where you're going to tell us if you need tack stalls, all that good stuff. And it will be where you can tell us who you want to stable with, but that is not something you need to worry about at this current moment. Let's see here. So the final entry fees are going to vary based on the selections you make, how many stalls you need, how many disciplines you enter, if you do clinics, if you are using the makeover marketplace listing services, and you need to pay your entry fees by August 29th. If you don't, similar to horse registrations, your entry will be considered a scratch. We do allow for some final entry edits that will close on September 5th. You cannot change the discipline that your horse is entered in, but you can change your stabling needs, and that's increasing stabling. You can register for clinics, you can change your jump heights, add to the makeover, that kind of stuff. But after August 29th, that was the cat. After August 29th, there are no changes to your disciplines. So please make sure you are really putting some conscious thought into what discipline you want to compete in with your horse come August. We know that's a bit early, but we have a lot of ride times to schedule, a lot of things to work out. So you do need to make those decisions in August. Let's see. We have the latest date for EHV1 compliance and the late clinic registration form. So if you decide you want to do the clinic after the August 29th deadline or September 5th deadline, we will have late clinic registrations open. There will be a $15 late fee. These will be kind of on site. So if maybe you don't have the ride that you wanted in preliminary competition, this is going to be a great opportunity for you to sign up for a clinic and get another chance to to show off your hard work and get some direct feedback from the judge. So let's see. That will have me go into my clinic spiel. Let me scroll through here and see.
I was just going to add as well that we do have another webinar closer to final entry on how to do final entry. So if anyone is like, ugh, and getting overwhelmed now about final entry, like don't worry too much about it yet, because we have another webinar, because that is yet another form that we do. So you have more of that coming.
Yes, we'll have several webinars throughout the year to walk you through the specifics of each process. Like I said, today's kind of an info dump and just getting you prepared for the deadlines to come. But for final entry, we will walk you through step by step that form. So don't panic yet. I just want to make you guys aware of the timeline of things. And with clinics, which we had for the first time last year, and we're happy to bring back this year, the way that clinics work is they'll all take place on Friday, October 10th. So that is the day after preliminary competition ends and the day before our new championship format begins. So this is an opportunity for anyone that is not participating in the championship to clinic, lesson, whatever you would like to call it, with the judge from preliminary competition. We will most likely be offering clinics in hunters, jumpers, dressage, and competitive trail. So the judges that judge those disciplines in preliminary competition are going to either be doing some short form, like for dressage, we have about 30-minute mini private lessons. For hunters and jumpers, we will have group clinics for, I think it was an hour and a half. And competitive trail will likely be a combination of the two, some like short kind of guided schooling opportunities where the judges will be there to help you for about 30 minutes, and you'll kind of be able to pick some obstacles that you maybe struggled with in preliminary competition. They can help school you through it. And there will also be some group options. We are probably going to have an intro to competitive trail group clinic. So for those of you that did not compete in competitive trail in the actual competition, but want to give it a try, that's going to be an awesome opportunity for you. And like I mentioned earlier, we will have a limited number of graduate horse spots open for these clinics. That was something that we got some requests for when we announced this last year. Everyone was like, man, I would really love to bring my graduate. I would really love any excuse to experience the makeover environment again, or genuinely, you know what, like I would love to learn a little bit more. I wasn't ready to jump when I did the makeover, whatever it might be. There will be a limited number of spots, and all of those details we're going to kind of dive more into later in the year. But just so you guys are prepared that there is an opportunity for your friends, yourself, if you're a returning competitor, to bring your graduates and participate in a clinic. So scrolling back up here, and I think actually what I'm going to do is touch on, we have our deadlines here. What I forgot to do is talk about who is responsible for completing these deadlines, which are going to be our individual entries and our team captains. So if you entered as an individual, you're not part of a team, all you need to know is that every single one of these deadlines on here applies to you. If you're a part of a team, your team captain is the one that's responsible for submitting the horse registration form, the final entry form, clinic registrations, anything apart from the application. Team members, once you hit submit on that application, in terms of paperwork, your job was done. And now everything is a responsibility of your team captain. So a quick breakdown of teams. I saw some questions about that in my inbox that I will reply to tomorrow. Basically, teams are for those that are sharing in the retraining process of one horse. A team can have multiple horses, same thing. You can have 3 horses on a single team, that's fine. But everyone on that team is expected to share in the retraining process in some way or another. And there is a team format for every single discipline, and that team format must be adhered to for team entries. So for example, for dressage, our dressage competition has 2 phases. It has the training level test, or the Western dressage basic level test. And the phase 2 is the demonstration ride. So for example, for the team entries, you will have one team member do the test and the second team member do the demonstration ride. Another example would be show hunters, where we have the under saddle portion and we have 2 over fences. You could have one team member do the under saddle, another team member do the first over fences, and if you have a third team member, they could do the second over fences, or you could have one of the first 2 team members. It's however you want to do that for those that have more than 2 phases, but just recognize that every single discipline that a team horse is entered in, you guys are going to have to share in that discipline in some shape or form. And let's see here, I'm going to go back to here. Okay, and we're going to touch a little bit on our exciting new discipline championships format for this year. So if you're familiar with the makeover, you might be aware that in previous years, the way things worked was prelim competition would happen on Wednesday and Thursday, and the top 5 placed horses from each discipline in the retiring racehorse division would then be invited back for the finale, which would all happen in the covered arena. This year, we're really excited to kind of try something new, and instead of the top 5 all competing in the covered arena, the top 10 from every single discipline in the retiring racehorse division are going to be invited back to participate in their discipline championship. That will happen on Saturday, just as the finale would have. However, for the majority of those disciplines, instead of having to go into the covered arena, you will probably be competing in your discipline's original venue. So for example, for show hunters that are normally in Claiborne, Stoneleigh, for the show hunters that are normally in Stoneleigh, instead of having to go into the covered arena and figure out if your horse is terrified of the Jumbotron or not, now you will stay in Stoneleigh and participate in your championship there. Not every single discipline is going to be in their same venue, but the majority of them are. We'll release all of that information closer, but generally, super exciting opportunity to be able to invite double the horses back for kind of the championship. than we have in previous years, and to offer a lot more prize money than we have in previous years. So now prize money will be going to 10th place. And we do have an updated prize money breakdown in this rule book. It was originally to 6th place. We had a very generous sponsor, so we're now able to pay out prize money to 10th place based on championship placings. There are also a bunch of other special awards that, you know, might be based off of where you got your horse from, if they were, where they raced, all that fun stuff. And then we also have top junior, top amateur, and top team awards. So that's all some fun stuff to just kind of keep an eye on and be aware of. And along with so we have prize money, we also have some amazing incentives. Kristen's going to talk a little bit about the Make the Makeover campaign here in a minute. What I'm going to do is talk about some scholarships. So this year we have the ASPCA Right Horse Scholarship. If you have adopted your horse from a right horse partner, some more common ones would be New Vocations or Second Stride. Your horse is eligible for the ASPCA Right Horse Scholarship. There are 50 spots available in the scholarship, and you will receive a like 400, I believe the total value is a $405 discount on your final entry fees in August. So the first 50 horses that qualify for this scholarship, to put it very simply, are going to be the ones that get it. This is another reason why the sooner you register your horse, the better. If you got your horse from New Vocations or any other right horse partner, register them now. Those scholarship spots will be in a first come, first serve type thing. There's no other special type of form that you have to fill out to be eligible for this scholarship. It will be prioritized based off of our hard to place criteria, which you can find on the website. And then after that, it will be in order of who registered their horses soonest. So very important to get your horses registered. You will have a $405 discount come final entry time. And that scholarship value might go up, but it covers your first discipline and one stall for the week. So very important to note there, if you have horses that qualify for the Right Horse Scholarship, or if you haven't acquired your horses yet, really good idea to check our list of right horse partners, see what's in your area, and see if they have any horses eligible that fit your needs. It's a great way to kind of reduce costs. We know that this is not a cheap venture by any means, and any way that you guys can reduce your entry fees, that's a great way to do it. So we talked about prize money. We've talked about microchips and health requirements. Just a little bit thing to note on health requirements. We talked about EHV1. We do require Coggins. You will need a health certificate. The dates and deadlines are all in the rule book for that. The other thing to note is that we have an arrival exam process. So every single horse that competes in the Thoroughbred Makeover, you'll check in, and your horse will then be examined by a team of vets and vet students, where mostly they're just going to be checking vitals, checking that health paperwork, checking for blemishes, all that kind of stuff, making sure that your horse is a body condition of 4 or higher, and that they are sound at the walk. So it is super important to have a really good relationship with your vet throughout this process. We know some horses are harder to put weight on than others. If you feel that you have a horse that might be difficult to put weight on, it's time to start working with your vet and a nutritionist right now. Figure out a plan, because no horse, regardless of the reason, will pass the arrival exam if the vets deem them to be under a 4 body condition score. They will do the hands-on Henneke evaluation, so they're removing as much bias as possible, and your horse will have several chances to pass that exam, but it's something to keep in mind now. You don't want to get to August, September, and be panicking about your horse's body condition score. They all must be a 4 or higher, and additionally, they must be sound at the walk. We call it the jog. There is no jogging, you're just walking. But if there's any concerns, again, you'll want to reach out to us. We have an amazing consulting veterinarian we're happy to bounce ideas off of, but your horse does need to be sound at the walk. So if they've got if you have anything that you're concerned about body condition wise or soundness wise, better to reach out sooner rather than later. Lodging, I'll make a quick note about that. So there's a couple different things. Horse lodging, the stabling at the horse park, you don't have to worry about until August. That's through us. You cannot move in until the Monday of the makeover, which I believe is the 6th. Most likely not until 1. You can check me on that, Bentley, but I think it's the 6th. I think my email said the 8th through 11th, which if I back up into that means the first day of move-in and check-in is the 6th.
That sounds, you want me to actually check, but that sounds right. I'm gonna go with that.
Whatever that Monday is of makeover week, that's
It's
when
the
you
6th. You're good.
that's the first day you can move in. Stalls, I think, are not going to be open until 1. So make sure you prepare yourselves for that. And just, I would just generally plan to take off work to, reserve lodging for yourself as a human being between Monday and Sunday. So Monday the 6th and Sunday the 12th. No, yes, yes. You book your Airbnbs, your campsites, whatever it is now. I mean, a lot can change. So if you can find something that's going to be refundable, that's great, or something that you think that you can sell. A lot of the campsites with the hookups and all that stuff at the horse park book up very quickly, but the primitive camping is first come, first serve, and there's plenty of spots available. So I wouldn't be too worried about that if that's your plan. You round pen rentals are not through us, they're through Deaver, and I can almost guarantee you that there are no round pen rentals available at this juncture. They release those in about a year in advance. It's not something we have any control over, and people book them a year in advance for a variety of reasons. So if you feel like your horse is going to need turnout time, I'm going to suggest finding a layover facility. There are so many in Lexington, and you can kind of either you can keep your horse at a layover facility and just come ship into the makeover during the day. You can have a day stall. You cannot. You can do what some people do where you stay at the makeover for one day, you ship your horse out, and they get turnout for the night, like every other night. Whatever might work out best for you. You might not need to worry about that right now, but in terms of lodging for yourself, that's something that I would look into right now. That stuff books up very quickly with Keeneland and everything running at the same time. You had something to add, Bentley?
No, I just came off of mute and never turned it back on again.
It's all good. I think that's all I have about lodging. We do have a host hotel and some information about camping on our website. It's going to be under the travel tab on the general event information page.
One question that I know came up last year, and I'm just going to go ahead and preemptively say it now. You cannot camp in your trailer in trailer parking, and you don't want to because it's like a really sketchy parking lot, like a mile and a half away from everywhere else. So you definitely need a campsite of some sort if you intend to stay in your trailer. But that rustic campground, I know people rave over that every year. So
Yeah.
that might be a good option if you're accustomed to that already.
Yeah, people love the campgrounds at the horse park, but that is the campground that is not drop trailer parking. You cannot stay there, and you do not want to stay there, and your horse can also not stay there. You must either stable your horse elsewhere or stable them at the horse park.
Yeah, we don't do tie outs, and we don't do like X pen kind of like
Yeah.
setups. So the horse either needs to be stalled or off property overnight.
Yes. And everyone freaks out about the round pens every year. They're small round pens. If your horse truly needs turnout, that's likely not going to be the answer for you anyway. So I'm sorry if they're booked up in advance. It's not our fault, but also
I will say there's also every year there's like a mini black market and people like buying and trading like hours or half day shifts in round pens. So like if you get there and you're like, oh my gosh, my horse is losing it, he needs a round pen right now, like someone can help you because I was in that state as well in 2018 and people donated some round pen time. So like it will work out with the round pens, even if you can't book one yourself right now, like everyone's gonna pull together, we're all gonna get through, it's gonna be great.
our people are very generous and they will make posts. Inevitably, posts come out, who needs round pen time, or someone is looking for round pen time. Either way, if you need some time in a round pen, you will get some time in a round pen. But if you want guaranteed turnout, make a post in the trainers group asking for recommendations for layover facilities. There's so many in Lexington. That's the beauty of it being at the Kentucky Horse Park. You have so many options for just about everything when it comes to the horses. So don't be too worried about that at this point. I think that actually that is all I have for now, and I'm
All
gonna
right.
turn it over to
Here,
you.
let's do a question break,
Yeah,
and then I'll launch into my spiel. So, Sarah's phone asks, just out of curiosity, how many were accepted out of how many applicants? We accepted 322 trainers. We don't ever publicize how many people applied as to not make anybody who did not get in feel bad. So we will not ever share that number. But 322 of you. So welcome, all 322 of you. We are very excited. How do you get nominated for special awards? I'll talk a little bit more about special awards in a few minutes, but you don't have to like nominate yourself. So Rayna can probably answer this a little bit smoother than I can, actually.
sure. Generally, I mean, you answered it. It's all going to be based off of your horse's registration. So as long as you submit an accurate registration form about where you acquired your horse, all that fun stuff, they'll automatically be nominated. What we have been doing is normally sometime in September, we will send out an email that just says, hey, check your entry. It'll have like, you're not going to see this until August, so don't go looking for it now. But we'll send out an email to you guys and say like, hey, check your entry on our websites. Make sure that all of the special award nominations match up with what you believe you should be nominated for in terms of horse special awards, stuff like top junior, amateur, all that kind of stuff. That's automatic. That's not going to be on there. And if there are any problems, there will be a form for you all to fill out to make sure that you are nominated for all of the correct special awards. But as a general matter, you don't have to do anything.
Yeah, and I'll share a little bit more about special awards later, so I'm going to leave that question unanswered, so I remember to come back to it. Joseph's iPhone, is Turning for Home a right horse partner? They are not. If you are curious about who is a right horse partner, if you go to aspcarighthorse.org/adoption partners, that's going to bring up the list of all of their adoption partners. That includes all of their horse organizations. So there's organizations on there that aren't necessarily thoroughbred aftercare facilities, but you'll find any of the thoroughbred facilities that are participating. And then, of course, those horses are also listed with the scholarship icon on our horse listings, and all partners are encouraged to use those. I know they are not all using those. So like New Vocations, I think is a good example. Those horses aren't on our listings, but they are eligible. So you will have to do a little bit of kind of digging to figure that one out. But I'm going to talk a little bit more. Actually, I don't think I have to because you did such a good job talking about the scholarships. I do know that New Vocations is also offering additional incentives. So like just to give them a shout out, you can stack that with the scholarship. So not to give a total commercial to New Vocations, but you can kind of make out pretty well with the New
Yeah.
Vocations horse.
Yeah.
But yeah, Turning for Home is not a right horse partner. Good question though. What percentage of horses compete in one discipline versus two? I don't know if I know the percentage off the top of my head. It's probably close to 50-50. I think a lot of people, figure like, kind of YOLO, like we're gonna go and try to
Yeah.
make the most of our time. Some people will enter, get there, discover their horse is not gonna make it in two disciplines, like they're fried, they're tired, whatever. I was one of those YOLO like bucket list people, so I did ranch work and freestyle because in freestyle I just hired a very nice local cattle producer to bring me a cow and I chased it around for 5 minutes. And that was my freestyle because that was what we were good at. So, you can kind of like really structure it and point your horse towards two disciplines. You can wait and see kind of what they're looking like they're going to be good at in August. Or, you can really focus hard. Like I know some people, their strategy is like, I know I have an upper level prospect here. I'm going to give everything we've got into just eventing or just show jumping. And they focus all on that discipline. So, that was like the super long way to answer that question, but
I would
it's
say
up to
that,
you if you want to do one versus two. I would say a lot of people do two because they can, they're there at the
yeah,
horse park, they're going to make the most of that week. So
yeah. I think it
hopefully
also
that answers that
totally
question.
depends on what your first discipline is going to be.
Some of
There's
them
a
are
lot
more
of events.
taxing than others, right?
Yeah,
Like Field
yeah.
Hunter is one of those that
Field
competes over
hunters and
2 days.
eventing are, two that I would, if you're going to do a second discipline, I would probably do a flat only second discipline for something like that. So a lot of people will do my answer to that question would be a majority of the people seem to do two disciplines, at least enter in two disciplines, whether they end up completing both. But some people are making such long trips, they figure they might as well maximize their time at the horse park, kind of like Bentley said. But it's really going to depend on what your horse is ready for and what discipline you're planning on doing. So keep in mind that if you enter 2 disciplines, you're going to be completing all phases of both of those disciplines in a 48-hour period. Preliminary competition is only 2 days long. So it's really going to depend on your horse's fitness level and just generally their level of retraining at that point. But a lot of people do 2 disciplines.
Yep. And we just always encourage people, like take your second discipline as seriously as your first, right?
Yes.
So like if you're like, you know what, this is a really cool time for me to try this discipline I've never tried before, just do your homework and make sure that, you're not gonna get there and kind of, make a joke of yourself, your horse, and the discipline itself. So a good idea to ride a dressage test before you hit the walnut ring at the makeover, at least once. So Alicia asks, is there professional braiding available? Yes, there is a huge culture of professional braiders who will offer their services. A lot of them will post things in the trainer group. That's not anything you sign up for through us. That is something that you're going to organize yourself. The same goes for massage, chiropractic, PEMF. Those are probably the big ones that we see. And there are all of those services available. You'll see a lot of it advertised in the trainer group. Night watch is a big one. I didn't think I needed that until a very nice lady drove by in a golf cart and was like, "Do you want me to check on your horse in the middle of the night?" And I was like, "Oh yes, definitely I do." It was like $15 or something crazy. So services like that, you'll find around the park, and you'll find that posted in the trainer group. So yes, good things to take advantage of. And Olivia, will dressage be back in the Rolex arena or held in a different one? This year it is in the Walnut Arena, which is, if you're familiar with the horse park, it is up the hill, kind of from like the parking lots around the covered arena. So it's like midway between the covered and the Rolex. Rolex is very expensive to rent, so we have moved
It's
it
also
from
not
Rolex to
green
Walnut.
horse friendly.
Yeah, some
We
horses
determined,
that ramped the
yeah,
Rolex turned into a like launch pad. So
we had
Walnut has
to
been a lot
stop
better
using
for
it
us.
a couple of years ago for the concert, and we saw great improvement in the how many horses were able to successfully complete their dressage test and the scores. And the judges and stewards had just such positive feedback about how much like calmer and more prepared the horses were. So we have moved to the Walnut, which is also the Pony Club arena. So it's not nothing. And it's a very pretty space, but it will be in the Walnut. It will not be in the Rolex.
Thank you, Darius Rucker. Special awards. Yes, getting back to special awards, I will answer all your special awards questions shortly. I'm going to leave those questions there, so I make sure I do that. And I am going to talk at you for a while. So yes, I'm Kristen Kovatch Bentley. I'm the communications manager at the Retired Racehorse Project. I have been here since 2018, right after I competed in the makeover. We jokingly say results not typical. You don't always get to compete in the makeover and get a job, but it worked out well for me. Also results not typical. I bought my husband a makeover graduate. So now we both have makeover graduates that we ride around together and do ranch stuff with. We are always big fans of you enabling your significant other to ride a makeover graduate. So keep an eye on that marketplace. All right, so I'm gonna deal with sort of the communications end and some of the marketing stuff that you guys can do for yourselves this year. I'm gonna launch into the Facebook group. So Rayna alluded to this a little bit, and you're gonna have the link for this in your trainer email. The private trainer group is called RRP TB Makeover Trainers Only. You will need to fill out some questions to get accepted into that group. If you can take a few minutes and do that, it saves us a lot of time, like hunting you down in our database to try to figure out who you are, especially if your Facebook name is something like wildly different from the name that you put on your trainer application. Totally get why people do that, but it does make it really hard for us to identify you. So answer those questions so we know who you are. Also helpful if you are on a team, and the entry list will only share the team name, so that saves us a little bit of time. Also applicable if you are the parent or the coach of a junior, because we do let connections of juniors into the group as well. Most of the RRP staff is in that group, but as Rayna has mentioned already, please don't use that group as an entry point to try to reach out to us on Facebook with questions. I am starting to get to the point where I get like really suspicious of new trainer friend requests, because like 50% of the time I accept that and then they immediately send me a question, which is great. But like half the time when I do that, I'm at the barn, or like I've just saddled my horse and then I don't want to answer a work question. So use that secretary at the rrp.org email if you have questions. Do feel free to friend me on Facebook. Just don't send me questions about stuff. We like to use our social media to be social.
And I'm gonna butt in and say, don't be offended when I don't accept your friend request on Facebook.
Oh,
Because
you're mean. All
people
right. It's fine. I'll be good cop. That's okay.
yeah, I've had to draw the line. I've learned that mistake. Boundaries are hard for all of us, and we do use socials for work, so I understand why it's hard for you all to draw those boundaries. So mostly what I do is not accept friend requests.
All
I
right.
love
So
you
friend
all
me,
dearly,
not Rayna.
but
All right, so as Rayna mentioned, yes, don't use the group to ask your rule-related questions. Go through our official channels just because like you'll get a bunch of well-intentioned answers that might be a little bit outdated because the rulebook does change every year. Sometimes it does change mid-year. If that happens, we will contact you by email. Things that are a big yes in the group include updates about your horse's journey, and that includes the good and the bad and the ugly, because this is kind of a safe place, safe space for you guys to, vent about what's going well and what's going bad. It is a really good place to like virtually commiserate with your new friends and share a glass of wine. Prep-related questions about the whole process, just venting, being group happy or group sad. All of these things are great for the trainer group. I do ask in the trainer group, please use your horse's jockey club name, especially if you are a procrastinator about registering, so that we know who your horse is when you're sharing awesome photos and videos. That group is just a really positive place, and that's like super in part to the trainers who keep it positive. So we do, police that group a little bit. We'll remove bad actors to keep it a safe space for everybody. So, but we're all in this thoroughbred journey together, including Rayna and myself and a few others who all owned thoroughbreds as well. So we know the ups and the downs ourselves. Sorry, Rayna, I keep blowing your cover. Now they're gonna know you also have a thoroughbred.
he's in my
Um,
profile picture. It's okay.
it's fine. It's all good. So as far as communications on our RP platforms, I spearhead most of what we're putting out on our social media. We maintain Facebook, Instagram, Twitter/X/ whatever we're supposed to be calling it now, and a TikTok. And we also post heavily on our story on Instagram and Facebook as well. So over the years, I've kind of streamlined sourcing content for those platforms to just the trainers group, just because there's a lot of you and one of me. So I'll post a thread usually at least every other week, sometimes weekly, like in the peak of the show season. Eventually, I will have an intern also starting in June who might take this process over. So I will introduce that person when we have selected them. So you'll all get to know them as well. You're always welcome to post your own updates on that thread, even if you've already shared it in a post in the group. Like the more the merrier. We don't mind seeing your triumphs more than once. If I see posts that I want to share that aren't on one of those threads, I'll just have to hunt you down and explicitly ask for your permission to do so, because I don't ever take stuff that people share in that group without them telling me that that's okay. If you post a video and I want to use it, I'll just have to ask you to email it to me, because there's no way to save a video directly from Facebook, and I am not smart or talented enough to screen record. So you will just have to send that to me directly. I love that a lot of you already have or will set up Facebook pages to promote your horses. And every year people are like, you can just take whatever you want from my page. And I love that. But there's 322 of you, and there's one of me and like literally a quarter of an intern, because they're only on for 10 hours a week. So even if you tell me that I have permission to take stuff off your page, I'm not going to remember that by the time it's time for me to collect content. So I really will use those threads pretty heavily, because it just streamlines the process for me with everything else we have going on. Let's see. As far as third-party media, as Rayna mentioned, our data specialist, Sally Roberts, is an amazing human being, and she goes through every single one of those horse registrations individually, and she will manually pull out information that she can glean from what you guys put in those registrations that she thinks is going to be interesting to me. So I'll go through that list of stories that she pulls out, and I'll pitch those to equestrian and racing media. I can't tell you necessarily what angles I'm looking for, because that kind of varies year to year, sort of based on like what else is in the news. And sometimes publications will request particular storylines. So if I'm not sharing your story, it doesn't mean I don't think your story is cool. It just may not fit whatever angle I kind of need at that time. Um, and that doesn't mean that you also cannot do a lot of self-promotion of your own story. So in the trainer portal right now, you will find a new template for this year, for 2025. It's a press release template. You can download that. It's a Word document, and you just add your own information. We've like highlighted in red all the places you sort of put in your name, your horse's name, their breeding information. You can submit those to your local news media. So when I competed in 2018, I wrote like this whole story about myself and Jobber Bill, and I added a few professional photos I had taken, and I submitted the whole thing on the contact form for our local paper, and they were so excited to like get a story that they didn't have to write themselves, that they went and they ran it on the front page of the sports section, which was very cool. It's a small town, it's fine. You might want to wait until like not now in February, like wait till you have your horses all slicked out and nice and fat and shiny, and maybe you have some show photos ready to go. But generally, local news really likes these kinds of stories. Like it's a good human interest story. Your local and regional equine publications or your clubs also really like to run with this stuff too. So that press release kit is there and ready to go for you guys. Shoot your shot, try your local TV stations too, and you can get kind of creative here. So a couple of years ago, we had some trainers in California who they were, I think, fairly spread out, but they all got together and they did like a makeover meet the trainers event. And because they were all gathered in one spot, it got a lot more media coverage because like somebody could come out and meet like 4 or 5 of them rather than driving all over the state to track down 1 or 2. So if you guys have, other makeover trainers in your area, that can be kind of a cool angle to get more media attention that way as well. We will have some other opportunities coming up soon. So we'll have 2 different podcast series that are looking for trainers to follow for the season. One of them is mine, Retired Racehorse Radio, that I produce on the Horse Radio Network. So if you think I sound familiar, now you know what I look like as well. And we also have one blogging series that will be looking for writers as well. So we're hoping to have an email out to you guys by next week for those opportunities. So keep an eye on your inboxes. Let's see. Okay, a couple notes on words. I know that we're kind of fighting a losing battle on this, but the RRP is the organization that produces the Thoroughbred Makeover. So over the years, it's turned into like, we're going to the RRP. Technically, that means you're going to our office in Edgewater, Maryland. You don't want to show up there with a horse. There's nothing to do. The event is the Thoroughbred Makeover and National Symposium presented by Thoroughbred Charities of America. And I know that that's a mouthful. We do not expect you to call it that every single time. But when you call it the Thoroughbred Makeover, or at least the makeover, that's going to help honor the event's long history. This is our 10th year in Kentucky. And it also honors all of the organizations and individuals and corporate sponsors who support that event and believe in the event as a force for change in the industry. To that point, you will notice that the hashtag for the event is TB Makeover. So just please try to honor that. The RRP has a much bigger charitable mission than just the Thoroughbred Makeover. So, we just try to keep those things straight if we can. Another word that we try to just use correctly is the word rescue. That can be kind of a loaded word. We do have a handful of true rescues every single year who come and compete. Those horses were sourced out of, like the low-end livestock auction or horse sale, or they came out of abuse or neglect cases. But adopting your horse from an aftercare organization or purchasing that horse directly from its racing connections or through a reseller or a listing agent, that does not constitute a rescue. That just constitutes acquiring a horse. So one of the big important cornerstones of the RRP's work is to just normalize careers beyond racing for thoroughbreds. So acknowledging that that's a normal transition for all of us as equestrians is a really critical part of that goal. So thank you very much for helping us to meet that goal. Do we have any questions related to that? Oh, private Facebook page, again, name again, please. RRP TB Makeover Trainers Only. Short, easy to remember, I understand, but it's also linked in your trainer email, so you can find it that way as well. Okay, now we're going to get a little bit into the fundraising. That's where I'll circle back on these special awards. So there's lots of opportunities to earn back your fees this year. The biggest one is the Make the Makeover. That's our peer-to-peer fundraiser. I know that went out in your emails today as well. And then Megan Garlish mentioned this as well in the trainer group today. That's peer-to-peer fundraising. So you'll use our platform at Give Lively, and you'll create a fundraiser in your name or your horse's name. And if you raise a minimum of $1,000 for the Retired Racehorse Project, your entry fee will be refunded. And if you go beyond that, the top fundraiser will get a zero-turn lawnmower, which I think is a really cool prize. And if you win that, I will be attempting to cajole you to give me the zero-turn lawnmower because I would really like one. Second place is a PEMF machine, and third place is cold hard cash. So some pretty sweet prizes this year. I know some people already really have their eyes on that zero-turn. So get those Make the Makeover fundraisers started. Megan's very nicely put together kind of a get started guide. And I believe that is linked in the portal as well. So $1,000 feels like a lot to raise, but a lot of people actually were able to achieve that goal last year. And we have, a lot of tips and tricks to kind of break that down into, littler asks. So you're not running up and asking someone to give you $1,000. We also have makeover incentives this year. So we are just kind of the listing service for those. We don't facilitate those incentives, but a number of breeders, aftercare organizations, and professionals, and like various former connections of horses are offering additional incentives for taking their former horses to the makeover. This is on if you go to our website under Thoroughbred Makeover, under Compete, you'll find makeover incentive offers. You can find a full list with contact information for those people. So if you think you have a horse that might be eligible for those incentives, take a look at that list and see, and you'll contact them and facilitate that directly. So we are not associated with any of those transactions. We're just listing them. See, Rayna already mentioned the scholarship, so I don't think I need to mention that again. Special awards. Okay, so special awards, those ones you like, those are awarded at the makeover based on placings. So versus incentives, like for the incentive awards and the scholarship, all you have to do is make a final entry. Special awards are provided by sponsors or other organizations that are kind of putting money behind causes that are important to them. So I think like PA Bread is a good one as an example. So they'll, offer an additional 2,500 to 3,500 or, whatever they have towards any Pennsylvania bred. And it's the top placed one after preliminary competition will receive that money. Special awards is those are renewed. So those are that's a sponsor relationship. So we're working with the sponsors for those in terms of when they'll be available. You will want to check that out online, and I'm going to get the link for you right now. It's also going to be under the makeover menu. So also under that compete menu. So there's a link for special awards. So as special awards get renewed, they'll be added to that list. I know right now that is a short list just because we haven't had sponsors that have renewed those yet. So we are working on that for 2025. So just keep checking back on that list. Oh, thank you. You were screen sharing for me. Super. So yeah, as Rayna mentioned, you don't need to do anything special to nominate your horse for special awards. The horse will just be listed as eligible, and we'll, ask you guys to confirm later on. All right, one more note on fundraising. So by our makeover rules, you are allowed to solicit sponsorships and support for your makeover journey and expenses. The only note of caution there is that if you are a non-pro or an adult amateur, you just want to make sure you check your own organization or association rules to make sure that you're in compliance with what they want you to do. So if you take sponsorships, that may knock you out of the running for being an adult amateur, by some organizations. As far as we're concerned, like that does not affect your standing with us, because we understand that, it's a long road to get to the makeover. It can be expensive. And if you want to solicit for some help from sponsors and so on, like that does not change your adult amateur standing with us. So you are open to do that. We can talk more about that if there's questions, but otherwise you can get pretty creative. I know, some people list all their sponsors on stall signage. They'll wear t-shirts all week with the sponsor's name on it. Again, that's, between you and your sponsors. But generally whatever you can offer, to people to get behind your makeover journey, that kind of incentivizes that for them a little bit. So yep. So no rules against that as far as we are concerned. Just check on that if you are, actively showing on your own that you don't ruin your own eligibility. So, all right. Does that answer all the special award questions? Fabulous. All right. So lots of resources are in the portal right now as far as marketing and promotion and fundraising go. So start there if you guys have questions. Check that rule book. And then if you have further questions about rules or processes, definitely email secretary@therrp.org. But if you guys have any other questions about stuff we've covered or stuff we haven't covered, now is the time. Drop those questions in the Q&A.
And while we wait to see if we have some questions, I did want to quickly touch on preparing your horse for the makeover and doing everything you can to have a safe and successful journey. So it's important to recognize that the thoroughbred makeover is a huge electric environment, and you should never underestimate that. We might not, be a, USHA,
but
like
it's a big
rated
show.
show. You have 10 different disciplines going on at once, and every single person is on a green horse. Your Western horses are going to see horses jumping. Your English horses are going to see cattle. Like there is a lot going on at the Kentucky Horse Park that your horse needs to be prepared for. They not only need to be fit physically and mentally, Get out there and expose them to everything you can. Even if your horse is currently rehabbing and you maybe can't ride them, if it is safe to stick them on a trailer and hand walk them around a show, go take them as a non-compete. It doesn't have to be, if you're a dressage rider, go take them as a non-compete to a rodeo. Go take them as a non-compete to a hunter show. That's fine. If you have another horse and you're going to take a lesson somewhere off property, take your other horse with you just as a companion. Take them anywhere you can, and when you are riding them, get them to as many shows, clinics, anything as possible. Just expose them to every environment you possibly can safely. Go at your horse's pace, of course. So if it's not going to be safe, or if it's going to set back their training to try to ride them off property, just take them somewhere in hand, feed them lots of cookies, whatever it is you do to give them a positive experience somewhere. Do that.
We have a lot of resources in the RRP education library about, we've done a webinar a couple of times, me and Dr. Reed, about keeping your training moving forward if you can't ride, which if you are in the north like I am, like is the story of my winter this year. Like I have ice everywhere, I can't get horses out, so I'm doing a lot of enrichment and ground training stuff in the barn. So if you are also in that boat, definitely check out those webinars. I think we did that one twice. And then we also have good articles about getting that horse out for exposure and then making sure that you are moving at that horse's pace. So especially if you are tackling this show for the first time or you're tackling it for the second time and want to do things differently, I recommend those resources in the education library, especially under the training section.
Yeah. And I think similarly, something that we always encourage, whether you're a junior, amateur, or a professional yourself, please don't be afraid to seek out help from other professionals. There is nothing in the rules that prevents you from having training rides or even sending your horse off to training. Whatever it is, we encourage you all to seek help from others, specific, like ideally professionals, but whoever you believe can really help you on your journey. The only rule is that come, I believe it's July 31st, you have to be the primary rider of your horse. And all that means is that if your horse is ridden, let's say 5 days a week, you should be riding the horse 3 of those 5 days. So the majority of the rides after July 31st should be put on by you. That doesn't mean that your trainer can't take them to a show for you after July 31st. They absolutely can. That doesn't mean they can't put training rides on your horse. They can. And you can send your horse off to training before July 31st and have someone put some miles on. You can do as much training rides as you want. So please take advantage of those resources and just make sure you're setting both yourself and your horse up for success. It is a large environment, and we just want everyone to come and be safe and successful. And successful doesn't mean come and win. We don't expect everyone to win. It's not possible. But we want you all to have a good experience and have you walk away and your horse walk away feeling like there's much more for you to achieve, and that no one has been set back because they came into an environment that they weren't prepared for.
Yep, when I did the makeover, I set a goal for the prep, and I could have done a lot more than I did. I did one day outing and one overnight show to make sure that I had the experience under the horse's belt for being stabled overnight, especially because my horses are out 24/7 at home. So I would say, like, as the minimum, that's probably a good goal to hit, is really try to hit an overnight show before you get to the horse park and discover your horse can't be stabled. You might get to the horse park and still discover your horse can't be stabled, because that's also what happened to me. So, and then you just figure it out when you get there. But it's better to kind of know going in what's going to happen than, be completely surprised. So, want to do some questions?
Sure.
All right, Lisa is asking warhorse eligibility. Not 100% sure what you're referring to, Lisa. Warhorses, by like industry definition, usually refers to a horse with 50 or more starts. We don't have any classification at the makeover for warhorses. There is sometimes an Iron Horse Award, and I believe that is for horses of a certain age, but not necessarily horses of a start amount. So, hopefully that answers your question, Lisa. If you're asking specifically about a special award, right now there is no special award for war horses. That's not to say that someone can't sponsor one. That industry definition, again, is usually 50 starts or more.
Yeah.
Are there show restrictions? That's another question I think I could use a little more information on. At this point in training, there are no restrictions on taking your horses to shows. You were not allowed to show the horse prior to December 1st of 2024. We are way past that point now, so you can show your hearts out. If you want to haul that horse every weekend, go for it. Especially, I know, like, Barrel racers, like you guys have barrel races all the time, and I love that. That is not a thing that we are used to in ranch land. It's like one show a month. So like I have to really plan my calendar carefully. But if you want to haul that horse out every weekend, like you are free to do that. Um, no restrictions at all. I mean, some people are able to somehow go to the makeover and young event horse, which I think is amazing. Um, God bless you guys. But yeah, no restrictions. Go to town, do it
Yeah.
up, go to the world show. Can shows be rated? Yep.
Yes.
They can also be
Any
schooling
type of show,
shows.
they can be rated. You can compete at a higher level than what we offer at the makeover. There are no restrictions as long as it is after December 1st of 2024.
Which
Now,
it
if you
is.
have shown your horse at this point but for whatever reason they're under 15 rides and you are thinking about competing them next year instead, unfortunately, if they've been to a competition, they are not eligible for next year. So that's something to keep in mind. And we do outline in our rule book what we consider to be a competition, because that includes schooling shows. That doesn't have to be rated. But to answer your question as it is, whatever show you want, rated, schooling, national, regional, go for
That
it.
horse is yours. So
Yeah.
good
Any
question
other questions? We'll do a final call here. And just as a reminder, we are your greatest resource for the year in terms of questions about the event. So please don't be afraid to come to me. I know I'm mean and I won't accept your friend requests on Facebook, but I promise I'm actually a nice person and I enjoy helping you all. So please email secretary@therrp.org if you have any questions. Molly or myself will happily get back to you as soon as possible. You can call the office and leave a voicemail, but we are Zillennials and we do appreciate to have everything in writing. So unless it's really necessary, we probably will not return your phone call. We will probably send you an email. And generally, if you're trying to get an answer quickly, calling us is not going to skip the line. We do use the voicemail. We have a queue, so we will get back to you in the order that your request was received.
All right. Question.
Eligibility.
Can you repeat eligibility? If I have an OTTB that raced in 2024 but needs a year to chill and rehab, can she compete in the makeover in 2026?
So eligibility for 2026 is going to be that they have last raced or had a published work on or after July 1st of 2024, and that they have no more than 15 rides. This is the retiring racehorse eligibility, by the way. No more than 15 rides as of December 1st of 2025, so this upcoming December. They have to be registered with the Jockey Club, microchipped, not have gone to a competition before December 1st of 2025. That's going to be 2026. For 2025, the eligibility is the horse must, for retired racehorse division, must have last raced or had a published work on or after July 1st of 2023. No more than 15 rides before December 1st of 2024, and no competitions before December 1st of 2024. Must be Jockey Club registered, all that fun stuff. Former broodmare division, they must have either had a last cover or reported foal in the previous two breeding seasons, so that's 2023 and 2024. And they must not have gone to a competition before December 1st of 2024. The ride limit does not apply to them because we know some of these horses have been off the track longer than others, and some of them might have been ridden for pleasure between foals, and it's harder to keep track of that. But so the ride limit does not apply to former broodmare, but they do need to have reported foals or covers by a Jockey Club stallion. That's also important to note. It cannot be a warm blood stallion or a quarter horse stallion. Has to be a Jockey Club registered stallion, and that must be reported. We must be able to pull that through their produce report with Equine Line. So hopefully that answers your
Thoroughly
question.
answered.
If your horse meets the 2026 requirements, then yes, she can compete in 2026. You will have to reapply. The applications do not roll over year to year. It is a yearly process. And email me if you want that eligibility for 2026 in writing. So
That's exactly why we have that rule though, is, some horses you acquire for the next year's makeover and you're like, ooh, this horse actually could use a year kicked out in the pasture with nothing to do, and maybe we'll reapproach this again next year. So that is exactly the kind of horse that these eligibility rules are seeking to protect. So
Yep.
good question.
All right. Well, with that, I think we've given everyone sufficient time to ask their questions, and you all hopefully know where to find me if you have any more. So thank you all for hanging in there with us tonight, and thank you, Kristen, for all of your wisdom. And
Something like that, yeah.
well, and with that,
All right, y'all, we'll see you in the
sign
trainers
off.
group.
See
Have a
you
good night.
later. Bye.